right, we are live. Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. All right, beautiful people, happy Tuesday. It is April the 19th, 2022, day number 86 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1104. That means we have been here consecutively for 1104 days, except for the Sabbath days. And for that 1 week hiatus that I had to take due to the vid. Bless the Lord. Okay, y'all, hold on. Hold this up. Jerry, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Belinda Brown, I just saw your APB go out on me. When it came through, I was already live on Facebook. Not Facebook, YouTube. But I was getting Facebook ready. But Grand Rising. Okay, I'm going to adjust this. All right, y'all. So let's get started. All right, y'all. Father, thank you for another day to come together and learn truth. Continue leading us and guiding us into all truth while we search. Help us to decipher the good from the bad, what we should use, what we shouldn't use, and what we should use. Give us the wisdom to know when to use it and how. All right, beautiful people. So we pause on page 17 at chapter 3. Let's get rocking and rolling. And God appointed in heaven angel surveyors to survey the earth, and atmosphere, and astronomers to note the place of the stars, and enumerators to number the inhabitants of the earth, and atmosphere to grade them and apportion their places, and nurses and physicians to receive the Essenes and administer unto them, and builders of heavenly mansions, and weavers of fabrics for covering the newborn, the Essenes, and builders of the heavenly, and weavers of fabrics for covering the newborn, the Essenes, and builders of heavenly ships for carrying the inhabitants from place to place. And God appointed unto all of these officers and teachers according to grade appointed he them. And when God had completed his appointments, the people were apportioned in heaven, every one to his place, to begin the work allotted to them. And God called the Asaphs, and he said unto them, Go ye down to the earth, and bring to me the first fruit of the first resurrection. And the Asaphs said, This will is our will, but what meanest thou by the first fruit of the first resurrection? God said, The spirits of the dead. The Asaphs said, The spirits of the dead, who are they? God said, When a corporean cometh forth out of his corporal body, this shall be called death. The Asaphs said, Who then are the spirits of death? And God answered them, saying, O ye that died in infancy, how can ye learn corporal things? Go ye then to my Lord Waga, and he will show you. The Asaphs departed and went down to the earth, and the Lord, through the Ashars, delivered unto the Asaphs 500 Essenes, and they brought them to Horeb before the throne of God. And God said unto them, Who are these? The Asaphs said, These are, the book of Revelation. The Asaph said, these are the first fruit of the first resurrection. Remember, and I forget exactly which chapter in the book of Revelation, where it talks about where it's in the portion where the 24 elders are, and they're casting down their thrones, and they're talking about all those souls and uncounted souls that had come forth, and he said, who are these? Rita, good morning. Okay, that's what this reminded me of. Let's go back to verse 8. No, 7. The Asaphs said, who then are the spirits of death? And God answered them, saying, O ye that died in infancy, how can ye learn corporal things? Go ye then to my Lord Wagah, and he will show you. The Asaphs departed and went down to the earth, and the Lord, through the Ashars, delivered unto the Asaphs 500 Essenes, and they brought them to Horeb before the throne of God. And God said unto them, who are these? The Asaphs said, these are the first fruit of the first resurrection. Behold, we know now the beginning, but the end of corporality. The earth body of these Essenes what was but a womb from which they are now delivered. That's what we said, right? Hold on. No, we said the earth was a womb for the humans here, but they likened the earth body to a womb for the spirit. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay. The Asaphs said, these are the first fruit of the first resurrection. Behold, we know now the beginning and the end of corporality. The earth body of these Essenes was but a womb from which they are now delivered. God said, well done. Take ye these Essenes and feed and clothe them, for this is your labor. The Asaphs answered, alas, we have tried them with all manner of food, on which we ourselves subsist, but they would not eat. God said, alas, O ye innocents, ye feed on ethereal food. These Essenes must have atmospheric food, even as corporeans subsist on corporal food. Ooh, wait a minute. Oh, shoot. Hold on, let me read a little bit further before I throw my comment in here. Ooh, wait a minute. God said, alas, O ye innocents, ye feed on ethereal food. These Essenes must have atmospheric food, even as corporeans subsist on corporal food, or corporal meaning flesh, right? Us still here in the corporal world. Go then, fulfill this first resurrection, for as much as ye deliver them, so will ye be delivered in time to come. The Asaphs then departed, taking the Essenes with them, but in course of time they returned again to God, saying, behold, O God, we have gathered the atmosphere of trees of all kinds, and of seeds and plants that grow on the earth, all most beautiful to our senses, and savory to the smell. And we gave these to the Essenes, but lo, they would not eat. Being alarmed, we again hastened to thee for information. God said, O ye of little wisdom, knowing so much of heaven and so little of earth, go ye back to the place whence ye bought these Essenes, and learn what manner of food they subsist on. The Asaphs went back with all haste to learn in reference to the food. And in due time they came again before God, saluting, saying, what shall we do, O God? Behold, these Essenes, whilst in the corporal form, feasted on fish and worms. How can we bring them to the atmospheric part of these things? God said, even the last time ye were present, ye said ye had gathered of the atmospheric part of trees and seeds and plants growing out of the earth. Why then cannot ye gather of the atmospheric part of fish and worms? The Asaphs said, alas, this difference have we observed. The trees and plants and fruits emit delightful atmospheres, most nutritious to the spirit, but that which is emitted from the living fish and living worm is foul smelling, being but the sweat and dead substance evaporating, what then shall we do? Ooh, wait a minute. Shayla, great rising, mom. Shalom, shalom. Listen, y'all. Okay. There is this movie. I forget what it's called, but it's one of them alien type movies. And the guy from Roseanne, Dan the man. What is his real name? Him. He played in it, but he was a lead investigator or in a police department, maybe FBI. Anyway, some type of authority. He was like the lead guy. And there were ships that came down and were hovering over Earth, and everybody could see it all over the world. But apparently, and I can remember it. The movie was, you know how you watch movies like Batman and it seemed the whole movie is dark, like the color is like, why they make the movie so dark? Not dark as in like feeling dark, but actual visual. It's like turn up the lights a little bit more. Even the day scenes look hazy. Anyway, that movie had like the overcast viewing of Batman all the way through, because it was kind of like, it was like the, not necessarily like the end of the world type thing, but it was like an alien. It was all about an alien invasion, right? But the aliens were in communication with the humans, and those in positions of authority, they would be the ones that the aliens would communicate with. So they created these chambers where they could kind of like get into a seat or whatever, and they beam them up to the spaceship to have conversation and meeting about what was going on here on Earth. I forget the name of the movie. I gotta find it. Somebody know what I'm talking about. But it was a little black boy in there who used to ride his bike a lot, right? He was like a teenager, probably like 17, 18 years old. Those are the only two faces I can remember, Dan and the little black boy. But anyway, the whole point of bringing that movie up was I thought about that and some of the things I've been experiencing over this last couple months with my smell. Maybe it's I don't know, because I did get the vid like last year, maybe it's a side effect. But even after I completely healed up, although I lost my taste of sense and smell then, after about a month afterwards, everything was back to normal. I didn't have any other issues with my taste or my smell. But a couple months ago, that my taste, well, it is. Okay. So my smell and my taste, it went out again. And I'm not sure how that works. If you've been healed so long from it, will the taste and smell come back and attack you again, right? I'm still trying to figure that out. But anyway, my taste and my smell is still off, even though it had been okay after I completely healed from the vid, right? So, but here's the thing. Everything that's not fruits and vegetables, and even onions and garlic, and even I noticed yesterday tomatoes, they have this horrible taste, right? And the smell of cooking food, to whereas it normal before my smell went out, it just smelled like cooking meat or whatever. You season it, smell good, right? For those that eat meat. But now I can't stomach it. It would literally make me gag, right? I can't go to certain restaurants anymore, even though I would go for like the plant-based foods. If they're cooking any kind of meat, the same horrid stench comes off of it. But not only that, I can smell humans who eat meat, right? It's like, I don't know, maybe you have to be really carnivorous. But this may sound horrible, but it's not. But it's just how my life is at this certain time, to where if you eat meat, I can smell it. Like you don't have to physically be eating. I can smell it through your flesh, right? And it stinks, right? I've heard a lot of times people say humans stink. And it's really only, not that you funky, you need to go shower. It's none of that. Like you can shower, scrub real good, but there is still, if you eat meat, you have flesh putrefying on the inside of your system in your intestines. And you can smell it. I can smell it. It is horrible, right? So I'm like, and I'm kind of grateful for these masks at the moment. But some people, like you, if I'm out in public, I'm like, oh my God, and they don't look like they dirty. You know, you can tell you keep yourself the way you dress, but you stink. Like, I can smell your insides. Y'all, it's gross. Listen to this. Anyway, I started talking about that because of this verse right here. Verse 19. Listen, I'll go back to 18. And that's what they was talking about. That's the whole point of bringing up that movie too. In the movie, before they beamed them up, there was like this, not gas chamber, but like a chamber where they cleaned them off. They like blast this air to detoxify them, so to speak, before they could even get in. And one of the guys in the movie had asked, what is it? Why do you have to go through this thing all the time? And Dan from Roseanne, I forget his name in the movie, he began to explain to them. He said, they don't like to talk to us unless we're clean, you know. And he said, their precise words were, humans stink. I'm like, this reminded me of that. Listen to this, y'all. God said, even the last time ye were present, ye said ye had gathered of the atmosphere part of trees and seeds and plants growing out of the earth. Why then cannot ye gather of the atmosphere part of fish and worms? The Asaphs said, alas, this difference have we observed. The trees and plants and fruits emit delightful atmospheres, most nutritious to the spirit, but that which is emitted from the living fish and the living worm is foul-smelling, being but the sweat and dead substance evaporating. What then shall we do? It's like, you want us to touch that? Look, they spirits now. You want us to touch that? They stink. God said, go ye to the place where mortals kill fish and worms, and in the same time that mortals tear these things with their teeth. Let me read that again. God said, go ye to the place where mortals kill fish and worms, and in the same time that mortals tear these things with their teeth, snatch from their hands and mouths the atmospherian parts of the food, and give it to these Essenes. Remember also that little by little ye shall teach them to live on other kinds of foods. Okay, so also, my thought that I was going to say earlier, you know, it also, the first thing that this reminded me of is when people go to give sacrifices on altars, right? And the aroma and everything that comes up. This is what that reminded me of. Even going to Chinese places, they be having this little fat Buddha sitting out with a plate in front of it with fruit. You know, they offer fruit. You got different people slaughter animals and offer the animals, not necessarily the animals, but it's the fragrance that emits from it. We can see that all through the Bible, right? Even with the herbs and stuff that they would bring, y'all would talk about a sweet smelling incense, right? All of that. Okay. And as ye do by these Essenes, do ye also in after time to others, remembering that what men subsist on in corporal life is entailed on them in spirit for a space of time after entering atmosphere, and of like substance shall they be fed spiritually. The Asaphs then departed. On the third day thereafter, as above mentioned, the voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, remember, they're deciphering Jehovah and God. Jehovah is representative of the Great Spirit, the Creator, who we refer to as Yahuwah, Yahweh, however you pronounce it, whatever you want to say, the Creator of all, right? And God, at this point, from this standpoint, is in the book, is the God over the earth, or what we would say today, like the president over earth. Earth can be a company. God is the president over this particular company, and he has his chain of command with the different spirits. Okay. On the third day thereafter, as above mentioned, the voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, my son, behold what the Asaphs have done in thy name thoughtlessly. they came to the fishery and did as thou badest, gathering food for the Essenes. And at their side stood the Essenes, saying, Why gather ye food for us? Behold, we are now strong in spirit. Suffer us to gather for ourselves. And the Asaphs said, It seemed well, do as ye desire. Thereupon the Essenes went to the fishermen and fisherwomen who were eating raw flesh. And the Essenes laid hold of the atmosphere in part, and ate thereof a sufficiency. And then the Asaphs said to them, Ye have feasted sufficiently, come ye away with us. But lo, the Essenes engrafted themselves on the fishermen and fisherwomen, and would not depart. The Asaphs, not knowing what to do, called on my name. Send thou, O God, quickly to them, those skilled in deliverance, that my Essenes be preserved unto everlasting life. Bruh, if you've ever dealt in any kind of deliverance ministry where people are possessed, or possessed, or if you haven't seen anybody possessed, maybe you've seen in the movies, right? People who are possessed, sometimes they have strange appetites for strange things. This reminds me of that. Get on the 3. Is everybody else woke? Are you sure? Okay. Well, 3 apiece. No more than 3, Bella. You can pass them out. All right, then bring it back. They have strange appetites for strange things. Also, people that have different types of addictions, you can see that as well. Something has grafted itself, just like this is saying, something has grafted itself, or a negative energy has become a whole lot stronger than what you can control at this moment. And the only way to break that and to be free of that, granted, you can have people lay their hands on you and cast the devil out, right? That can work. But if you don't keep up the lifestyle to when somebody else came in to help you be delivered or something, if you don't keep up the lifestyle that will keep you free, it'll come back. Now, you don't need anybody to lay hands on you, right? If you have any kind of addiction or possessed of anything, there's one sure way that will get you delivered. Water fasting. That's the most fast, maybe I said that wrong in English terms. That is the quickest way to be delivered of anything, but it takes discipline, and you really got to be serious. Okay. There's different thoughts coming to me while I read different parts of these. Okay. I'll read this again, verse 24. Thereupon the Essenes went to the fishermen and fisherwomen who were eating raw flesh, and the Essenes laid hold of the atmosphere in part, and ate thereof a sufficiency. And then the Asaphs said to them, Ye have feasted sufficiently, come ye away with us. But lo, the Essenes engrafted themselves on the fishermen and fisherwomen, and would not depart. The Asaphs, not knowing what to do, called on my name. Send thou, O God, quickly to them, those skilled in deliverance, that my Essenes be preserved unto everlasting life. And God summoned those skilled in deliverance of engraftment, and dispatched them hastily with messengers to the place of the fisheries. Jehovah said, From the trees, the fruits and flowers, the grains and seeds and roots that grow in the ground, have I created a ceaseless harvest going upward into the atmosphere, which shall be the sustenance of the spirits of men newborn in heaven. But whosoever feasted on flesh on earth shall not find spiritual food in heaven, but he shall return to the butcheries and eating houses where flesh is eaten, and he shall feast on the atmosphere and part thereof before it is rotten. Be ye guarded of them, lest they engraft themselves on mortals, feasting on their feasts, and so go down to destruction. Bruh. Yo. Read this again. Verse 27. Jehovah said, and this is the great God, not the president over the earth, not God, but the great spirit is speaking now. Jehovah said, from the trees, the fruits, the flowers, the grains and seeds, and roots that grow in the ground, have I created a ceaseless harvest going upward into the atmosphere, which shall be the sustenance of the spirits of men newborn in heaven. But whosoever feasted on flesh on earth shall not find spiritual food in heaven, but he shall return to the butcheries and eating houses where flesh is eaten, and he shall feast on the atmospheric part thereof before it is rotten. Be ye guarded of them, lest they engraft themselves on mortals, feasting on their feast, and so go down to destruction. Which, if you were here when we was talking about like people who astral project, you got to be careful, because it's not just it's not just otherworldly entities and those being just dead or humans that have died. They're also in that realm, but also living beings who learn how to have out-of-body experiences or astral project on purpose. They're there as well. So if you're not wise, you may not know. If you're having those encounters, you may not be able to decipher who is who. But remember how we was also talking about how certain people, and I think we was talking about the foods, 2 different foods that weigh you down, meats and stuff, it weighs you down and it keeps you close to the earth. This is like explaining that in another whole way, which I was trying to explain to y'all, right? And sometimes when you leave this place, depending on how you develop in the flesh already here, will determine that how high you can rise. And we was also talking about the lights are going through the body, y'all. What's that? When you the chakras, right? The energies and stuff, you have to clean those energies up that flow through your body to be able to rise higher, so to speak. Not just when you leave this world, but also while you're here. Yes, babe. So a lot of things. This is making a whole lot of other little pieces that I have. It's like bringing it into a better context for me. Okay. Verse 28, after many days, the Asaphs came before God. Thanks, Dana. You said chakra. Thank you. After many days, the Asaphs came before God, saying, the physicians severed such as were bound, and we brought them away. Shall this be our labor day and night, to lead these Essenes about, finding them clothes and food? This we have observed. The more we do for them, the less they do for themselves. Jehovah spake through God, saying, a nurse I provided for the newborn, but when he is grown, I command him to provide for himself, that he may be a glory in my kingdoms. By charity alone ye cannot raise man up, but be diligent to teach him to try continually to raise himself, for herein lieth the glory of manhood. The Asaphs said, if we leave the Essenes alone, they will return again to the fisheries and fasten themselves upon mortals, doing nothing but eating. God said, near the fisheries, but in atmosphere, go ye and fashion a colony, and it shall be your colony in heaven. Thither take these Essenes, not showing them the way of the fisheries. In the colony, put ye them to work, weaving and making clothes, and otherwise producing, but go ye for the food at the fisheries, and bring sufficient every day, giving only to them who labor, or to invalids and helpless ones. By this ye shall inspire them to labor, which is the foundation of the growth of the spirit. Ooh, look at here, y'all. We figured that out, right? That's a little small thing we done figured out here in the flesh. Man don't work, he don't eat. You keep providing food for a grown man, let him live in your basement. You're going to keep having to provide for a grown man living in your basement. You better get your tail out of here. And women too, look. By this ye shall inspire them to labor, which is the foundation of growth of the spirit. And in course of time, they will not only care for themselves, but join ye in helping others, which is the beginning of the second resurrection. Behold, this lesson ye have learned, that according to the diet and the habits of mortals on earth, so must ye provide their spirits when first entered in heaven. Choose ye therefore of your own people a sufficient number to make all things required in a delightful colony, whether it be food and clothing, or nurseries, or hospitals, or place of worship, or place of dancing, and receive ye as many Essenes as may be delivered from the earth, raising them up in industry, virtue, wisdom, mirth, love, benevolence, and adoration, and this shall be a new heaven unto you all. Ye are my chosen and an example colony of all the kingdoms I shall build in my heaven. The time cometh when the whole atmosphere around about the earth shall be filled with countless millions of angels born out of the earth. Be swift in your labor. The people spring up from the earth rapidly into heaven, and every colony ye now found shall, in time to come, be a great kingdom, requiring experienced workmen. Whosoever laboreth must most efficiently for Jehovah, Whosoever laboreth most efficiently for Jehovah, him will I promote to wider fields. Ye are as one of the cornerstones of Cephas, Seffas, and his house shall embrace atmosphere and the whole earth. Words are already taking root in the mouths of mortals, and for tens of thousands of years will war reign, might against might, darkness against darkness. Hundreds of millions will be slain in wars on earth, and their souls be thrown into chaos. Even as ye beheld these spirits fastening on to mortals for food, so will spirits in chaos, millions of them, fasten themselves on the battlefields, still battling, or fastening themselves on mortals, obsessing them to madness and death. That's your demon possession. That is definitely demon possession, what we call and recognize as demon possession. Okay, chapter 4. So God established, let's get through chapter 4. So God established colonies in heaven for the reception of the spirits of mortals, and the colonies embrace the arts of healing, education, industry, drapery, manufactories, the building of ships, and all things required for the spirit, even as corporal things are required by mortals. And great labor came upon the host of God, who founded these things, toiling day and night, receiving the Essenes, and providing for them food and clothing. And many of the hosts of God lamented that they had come to the corporal earth, and they framed songs and anthems of lamentation, and these they chanted even whilst at labor. God was troubled that they should thus lament in the presence of the Essenes, and he called together the proper officers that he might rebuke them. But lo and behold, the light of Jehovah spake from the throne, saying, Rebuke them not, my son. Did I not command them, saying, Behold, I have created a new world. Come ye and enjoy it, even the earth? And when they had come, said I not to them, Enjoy ye all the fruits of the earth, save the fruit of the tree of life, lest ye die. But corporal spake to them, and they believed in corporal. Hold on. There you go. Close it up. Thank you. But corpor, C-O-R-P-O-R, but corpor spake to them, and they believed in corpor. Wherefore then shall they not lament? Do they not remember their former homes in Ethereum, and thus aspire to regain them? But seek thou, O my son, to make their lamentations a glory in the souls of the Essenes, that they may also aspire to a higher heaven. The voice departed, and God perceived the wisdom of Jehovah, commanded certain officers to collect many of the anthems and deposit them in the library of Horeb in heaven, and so it was done. This then is after the manner of their lamentations, to wit, where is my home, O Jehovah, when I was happy and my feet wandered? I dwelt with thy hosts afar, afar thy glory shining. O the songs in thy upraised kingdoms, when shall I rejoice in the music of my own house? O those sparkling running waters, O the pastimes of feast and love. Where is it, O Jehovah? It was my home in high heaven. I fell in darkness. Okay.
I know my numbers now.
I know you do. Don't you tell your brothers that code. Where is it, O Jehovah? It was my home in high heaven. I fell in darkness, wandering soul within me that leadeth me forth. The gardens of Jehovah stood on every hand. O senseless feet to take me onward. In the darkness I was lured. Sweet perfumes rose amidst the darkness. Intricate in thy glory, O Jehovah, I lost the way. I was lost. The music of thy spheres was shut out. I was environed in darkness. Where is my home, O Jehovah? Why have I forsaken it? Crystals and high arches on every hand, full, standing out, shining, and the songs of my sweet loves. Such was my home and place of revelry. I bartered them all away, wandering forth, buried me in the opaque, in the dark. Oh, for my home in high heaven, mirth, song, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you. Boy, I tell you, this pollen is something. Everybody sneezing. Oh, for my home in high heaven, mirth, song, rest, and love, clear shining. Thou, O Jehovah, hast given me sons and daughters. Out of this darkness my gems were born. Oh, I will polish them up. Kin of my kin, I will raise them up. Thy goddesses in heaven above will come, in ships of fire descending. My jewels shall enter and rise with me. We shall search for my home, the haven of rest. I see thee, O Jehovah, afar off, higher than the highest of heavens. O hasten my home and my rest. O ripen these. Bless you. O hasten my home and my rest. O ripen these, my precious diadems. O take us to ethereal worlds. But no one could repeat their numerous lamentations, for there were hundreds of thousands of them. And as the Etherians sang them, the Essenes, the newborn, the atmospherians, listened, longing, listened, and looked upward. And this is where we will pause at today, at the end of chapter 4.
Is your video 1 hour long?
For the most part. Okay, beautiful people. Let's move on over here to the meditation book. Thank you, Mr. Isaiah. Okay, you want to
buy it.
You want to show it to you. He said buy it. Okay. So we pause on page 47. We start on page 48. Okay, and this section is the Great Awakening of Neterian Religion. So we have a hieroglyph, and it says Nahast, Nehast, and it means to wake up. Right here. Facebook, YouTube. Okay. Nahast. Nahast means to wake up, to awaken to the higher existence. In the Pert Em Haru text, it says, Nuk pa neter a neter ua asha ren. And it has like a reference like 8 above the ren, and that is Pert Em Haru 9 and 4. Remember, the Pert Em Haru is what they call today the Book of the Dead, but it's a misnomer. It should not be named the Book of the Dead. It's actually the Book of Life, the Book of Enlightenment, right? The Book of coming forth by day. You should use it while you are living, not after you die, or what happens to you after you die. It's all about life today and how you should be developing while you're here on this realm. Okay. And that translation, Nukpa Neter A Neter Ua Asha Ren, means I am that same God, the Supreme One, who has myriad of mysterious names. We might use that as our title today. But if you don't come to the video, you may not get the translation. Okay. I'll read it again. That Egyptian quote, I am that same God, the Supreme One, who has myriad of mysterious names. The goal of all Nectarian disciplines is to discover the meaning of who I am, to unravel the mysteries of life, and to fathom the depths of eternity and infinity. This is the task of all human beings, and it is to be accomplished in this very lifetime. This can be done by learning the ways of the Netaru, emulating them, and finally becoming like them. Akhus, I may have said that wrong. Akhus, Akhus, which means enlightened beings, walking the earth as giants and accomplishing great deeds, such as the creation of the universe. Okay, Uajat, right? The Eye of Haru is a quintessential symbol of awakening to divine consciousness, representing the concept of Nahas. And you probably already saw that when I showed you the first hieroglyph right here. They call that, today everybody knows that as the all-seeing eye, or the Eye of Horus, right? Or the Eye of Ra. It's a lot of different names for it. What is Egyptian yoga? What is yoga? In order to have a full understanding of what meditation is, you will first be introduced to the basic concept of yoga and its main disciplines. Then we will explore its practice in ancient Egypt. Then we'll focus on the specific forms of meditation practiced in the ancient Egyptian spiritual traditions. Most students of yoga are familiar with the yogic traditions of India. Consider that Most students of yoga are familiar with the yogic traditions of India. Consider that the Indian texts, such as the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, etc., are the primary and original source of yogic philosophy and teaching. However, upon examination, the teachings currently espoused in all the major forms of Indian yoga can be found in ancient Egyptian scriptures inscribed in papyrus and on temple walls, as well as stills, statues, obelisks, and other sources. Yoga is the practice of mental, physical, and spiritual disciplines which lead to self-control and self-discovery by purifying the mind, body, and spirit so as to discover the deeper spiritual essence which lies within every human being and object in the universe. If you let the church teach it to you, they tell you it's of the devil and it's satanic and stay away from it. Pull your kids out of school if they practice some yoga at PE. All that craziness, and they ain't even studied to find out exactly what it is. Some ignorant person teaching other ignorant people. In essence, the goal of yoga practice is to unite or to yoke one's individual consciousness with universal or cosmic consciousness, or to yoke your spirit to the Creator's spirit, right? Therefore, ancient Egyptian religious practice, especially in terms of the rituals and other practices of the ancient Egyptian temple system known as Shatu Neter, the way of the hidden supreme being, also known in ancient times as Smai-Tawi, Egyptian yoga, should as well be considered as universal streams of self-knowledge philosophy which influenced and inspired the great religions and philosophers to this day. In this sense, religion in its purest form is also a yoga system, as it seeks to reunite the soul with its true and original source, God. In broad terms, any spiritual movement or discipline that brings one closer to self-knowledge is a yogic movement. The main recognized forms of yoga disciplines are yoga of wisdom, yoga of devotional love, yoga of meditation, and under yoga of meditation you have physical postures yoga. Then you have yoga of selfless action. Then you have tantric yoga, and under tantric yoga it's the serpent power yoga. And a lot of married couples will practice the tantric type yoga, right? Where you can two come together as you become one. When you become one here, if you practicing it long enough and you understand what you're doing, when you connect here, when you get to a certain point, you can actually connect to the divine. It takes some practice, but you can get there. The diagram below shows the relationship between, if you want to know about that, they actually, Dr. OAHSPE actually has a book. I talked about it months ago. I actually gave y'all the link. I'll share the link again today where you can get it. It's real good. I'm gonna write this movie, Dan movie. I said I was gonna share it, so I gotta find a clip. Hopefully they got a clip on YouTube of that part where they say humans stink. I'm gonna share that. Okay. The diagram below shows the relationship between the yoga disciplines and the path of mystical religion practice in its three complete steps. First, receiving the myth, knowledge. 2, practicing the rituals of the myth, following the teachings of, okay, so it's 1, receiving the myth, which is knowledge. You have the second one, practicing the rituals of the myth, which means following the teachings of the myth. And 3rd, entering into a mystical experience, which means becoming one with the central figure of the myth. Okay. And here is the diagram that it was talking about. Let me see if I can get a little close. I'm showing it to Facebook first. That way, if you only got the book, you can kind of screenshot it. So you can study a little bit later till your book comes. All right, now for YouTube. There you go. Boom. All right, so I read it. Okay. Okay, so you should start at the left side, and it starts from the spiritual aspiration, right? So from spiritual aspiration, you can go in one of two ways, right? You got the path of religion up here, and then you have the path of yoga mysticism on the right side. So here, most of the time in the West, we normally take the path of religion. Not that we chose it, we were just kind of born into it. So we're kind of born into that path, the path of religion. And most people in other places on the eastern side, they're born into the path of yoga mysticism, right? You got the gurus and everything. But it's going to lead you to the same place, right? And it's 3 stages: aspiration, striving, then establish, right? So aspiration is starting, striving is your journey, and establish is when you get there and you're like fully operating in it. Okay. So the arrows at the top, the path of religion is, okay, the path of religion, you start going, devotion, action, meditation, and wisdom, then boom, it hits spiritual enlightenment. And so with that, which is kind of like the way we've been going. That's how we've been taught through the path of religion. You start, yes, I'm going to worship God. I'm going to worship him. And then you find yourself and you're devoted to it. And as you're being devoted to it, you find an action to do and you're consistent with that action. And then you begin meditating. As you begin meditating, the wisdom begins to come, right? Then boom, spiritual enlightenment. So that's the process of the path of religion. Now, if you were born on the eastern side and they go through they're kind of like born into the path of yoga, or you can choose. If you were born into nothing, you can choose which route you want to go, right? If you choose anything. All right, babe. I'll FaceTime you when I get to the...
All right, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you sure you're going to make the one this evening?
Yeah, I'll make the one this evening.
Okay, cool. All right, so when you take the path of... Love you too, babe. The path of yoga mysticism, they have all 5 arrows going out. It looks different from the top part, and it's like all not simultaneously, but they teach you about it differently. So they have all 5 arrows going out, and it's labeled meditation, devotion, wisdom, action, tantrism. And as you're doing that, they're kind of like all here. So you're practicing them daily, like different levels of that daily, where you're getting washed in it real good. And as you go kind of like back and forth, the ebb and flow of all of that, then boom, spiritual enlightenment, right? Y'all should probably, if you haven't, look at some yoga videos, or even you can even look at the process, like what people who actually recorded and put it up there, monks and their different disciplines that they do, or the day in the life of a monk, or different things like that. Just kind of look at it and compare what they do versus what we do, right? Because I looked at that before, and even in my studies, I was like, that's interesting how they do that. And oh my gosh, the entire day, and they only eat once a day, maybe twice. Like all of these things, how it's like is disciplined and set in order. Not that there are no undisciplined people, because there are, but the discipline that they show, in like the rigor, it's like rigorous discipline. I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, I'm glad I was born in America, because sometimes I can be a bit lazy. But then again, it's like, man, I desire that type of discipline. I'm too lazy. Just looking at all of that, it'll have you checking over yourself. Okay. The disciplines of yoga fall under 5 major categories. These are yoga of wisdom, yoga of devotional love, yoga of meditation, tantric yoga, and yoga of selfless action, which we repeated that from the previous page. When these disciplines are practiced in a harmonized manner, this practice is called integral yoga. With these categories, there are subsidiary forms which are part of the main disciplines. The emphasis in the Kamachan Osirian or Osirian myth is on the yoga of wisdom, yoga of devotional love, and yoga of selfless action. The important point to remember is that all aspects of yoga can and should be used in an integral fashion to effect an efficient and harmonized spiritual movement in the practitioner. Therefore, while there may be an area of special emphasis, other elements are bound to become part of the yoga program as needed. For example, while a yogin, Y-O-G-I-N, which is a practitioner of yoga, an aspirant, or an initiate, while a yogin may place emphasis on the yoga of wisdom, they may also practice devotional yoga and meditation yoga along with the wisdom studies. So the practice of any discipline that leads to oneness with the supreme consciousness can be called yoga. I read that again. So the practice of any discipline that leads to oneness with the supreme consciousness, or with Yah, the Great Spirit, can be called yoga. If you study, rationalize, and reflect upon the teachings, you are practicing yoga of wisdom. If you meditate upon the teachings and your higher self, you are practicing yoga of meditation. Thus, whether or not you refer to it as such, if you practice rituals which identify you with your spiritual nature, you are practicing yoga of ritual identification, which is part of the yoga of wisdom, or Kamashan Rek Indian Yana. Indian Yana. And the yoga of devotional love, which is Kamashan Ushet. And then, okay. Let me read that over. Okay. Let me go back. Thus, whether or not you refer to it as such, if you practice rituals which identify you with your spiritual nature, you are practicing yoga of identification, which is part of the yoga of wisdom. Bella, chill. In Kamashan or Kemet, it's called Rek, R-E-K-H. In India, it's called Jnana, J-N-A-N-A. And the yoga of devotional love. In Kemet or Kamashan, it's called Ushet. And in India, it's called Bhakti, of the divine. Devotional love of the divine. If you develop your physical nature and psychic energy centers, you are practicing serpent power. In Kemet or Kamashan is Uraeus, or in India it's called Kundalini. Yoga, which is part of the you are practicing serpent power yoga. In Kamashan or Kemet Uraeus, or India Kundalini, which is part of the tantric yoga. If you practice living according to the teachings of ethical behavior and selflessness, you are practicing yoga of action in daily life. The yoga of action in Kemet is called Ma'at, right? And in India, it's called karma. If you practice turning your attention towards the divine by developing love for the divine, then it is called devotional yoga or yoga of divine love. The practitioner of yoga is called a yogin, male practitioner, or yogini, a female practitioner, or the term yogi may be used to refer to either female or male practitioner in general terms. One who has attained the culmination of yoga, union with the divine, is also called a yogi. In this manner, yoga has been developed into many disciplines which may be used in an integral fashion to achieve the same goal, enlightenment. Therefore, the aspirant is to learn about all the paths of yoga and choose those elements which best suit his or her personality, or practice them all in an integral, balanced way. Enlightenment is the term used to describe the highest level of spiritual awakening. It means attaining such a level of spiritual awareness that one discovers the underlying unity of the entire universe, as well as the fact that the source of all creation is the same source from which the innermost self within every human heart arises. And I'll read this last page, and then we'll pause. What is Egyptian yoga? The term Egyptian yoga and the philosophy behind it. Smai-Tawi from chapter 4 of the Pert M. Haru. And I'll show you this hieroglyph here, Egyptian yoga. This is for Facebook right here. YouTube. Okay. As previously discussed, yoga in all of its forms were practiced in Egypt apparently earlier than anywhere else in our history. This point of view is supported by the fact that there is documented scriptural and iconographical evidence of the disciplines of virtuous living, dietary purification, study of the wisdom teachings, and their practice in daily life. Psychophysical and psycho-spiritual exercises and meditation being practiced in ancient Egypt long before the evidence of its existence is detected in India, including the Indus Valley civilization or any other early civilization, Sumer, Greece, China, etc. The teachings of yoga are at the heart of Pert-em-Heru. As explained earlier, the word yoga is a Sanskrit term meaning to unite the individual with the cosmic. The term has been used in certain parts of this book for ease of communications since the word yoga has received wide popularity, especially in Western countries in recent years. The ancient Egyptian equivalent term to the Sanskrit word yoga is smai, S-M-A-I. Smai means union, and the following determinative terms give it a spiritual significance, at once equating it with the term yoga as it was used in India. When used in conjunction with the ancient Egyptian symbol, which means land, ta, T-A, the term union of the two lands arises. In chapter 4 and chapter 17 of the Pert-em-Heru, a term, Smai-Tawi or Twi, Ta, maybe it's all W and I, Smai-Ta, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna have to Google it, and then I'm gonna have to listen to them say it, or in YouTube, somebody gonna say it. Okay, make sure I pronounce it right tomorrow. Okay, in chapter 4 and 17 of the Pert-em-Heru, a term Smai-Ta is used. It means union of the two lands of Egypt, ergo Egyptian yoga. The two lands refer to the two main districts of the country, north and south. In ancient times, Egypt was divided into two sections or land areas. These were known as Lower and Upper Egypt. In ancient Egyptian mystical philosophy, the land of Upper Egypt relates to the divinity of Heru, who represents the higher self, and the land of Lower Egypt relates to Set, the divinity of the lower self. So Smai-Ta means the land, the union of the two lands, or union of the lower self and the higher self. The lower self relates to that which is negative and uncontrolled in the human mind, including worldliness, egoism, ignorance, etc. Set, or like we talked about yesterday, Set, Satan, Satan in Christianity, right? The lower self relates to that which is negative and uncontrolled in the human mind, including worldliness, egoism, ignorance, etc. Set, while the higher self relates to that which is above temptations and is good in the human heart, as well as in touch with transcendental consciousness, Heru. Thus, we also have the ancient Egyptian term Smai-Heru Set, or the union of Heru and Set. So Smai-Tau or Smai-Heru Set are the Egyptian words which are to be translated as Egyptian yoga. Above the main symbol of Egyptian yoga, Sma, which is that. This looks like a shovel right here. Okay, the main symbol of Egyptian yoga, Sma. The ancient Egyptian language and symbols provide the first historical record of yoga philosophy and religious literature. The hieroglyph Sma or Sima represented by the union of two lungs, and the trachea symbolizes that the union of the duality, that is, the higher self and the lower self, leads to non-duality, the one, singular consciousness. The ancient Egyptians called the disciplines of yoga in ancient Egypt by the term Smai-Ta. So what does Smai-Ta mean? Okay, I'm about to show y'all this. Smai-Ta from chapter 4 of the Pert M. Haru, the ancient Egyptian symbols of yoga. It has A, B, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's like 5. Okay, it got letters, right? With letters and lines. I'm going to show it to you before I try and explain it. Jen, good morning. Robin, good morning, good morning. Okay, this is all this. And a little blurb at the bottom. We're going to read. Okay. I probably should have paused before I started this part. Okay, but we'll keep going. All right. The theme of the arrangement of the symbols above is based on the idea that in mythological and philosophic forms, Egyptian mythology and philosophy merge with world mythology, philosophy, and religion. The hieroglyphic symbols at the very top mean know thyself, self-knowledge is the basis of all true knowledge, and okay, so let me say it again. At the very top, and it has the little small cross right here. This one. Oh, this one right here. This symbol. At the hieroglyphic symbols at the very top, and that little sign that I showed you is showing you the line at the very top, mean know thyself. Self-knowledge is the basis of all knowledge. And the second line, this little symbol, this is the second line. It shows this little symbol right here, right? This is translated as abbreviated forms of Smai-Tawi signifies Egyptian yoga. The next 4 below represent the 4 words in Egyptian philosophy which mean yoga. They are A, Nefer, B, Sima, C, Ankh, and D, Hetep. Right here. A is Nefer. B is Sima. C is Ankh. And D, what did it say it was? Hetep. Or you hear Hetep, H-E-T-E-P as Hotep sometime, but it's the same thing. It's Hetep. All right. Let's go back up here. This diagram here, I'm going to show it first, and I'm going to explain or read what it says under it. And this page is the end of this portion, so we're going to read down here. No, well, it'll be the end. Okay. Above left, Smai Haru Set. Haru and Set join forces to tie up the symbol of union, Sima, C-B, above. The Sima symbol refers to the union of Upper Egypt, lotus, and Lower Egypt, papyrus, under one ruler, but also at a more subtle level. It refers to the union of one's higher self and lower self, Haru and Set, as well as the control of one's breath or life force through the union or control of the lungs, breathing organs. The character of Haru and Set are an integral part of the Pert M. Haru. All right. So right here. Okay, so see this? Remember how it says it was like a representation of the lungs? This right here is the lungs, and this is the trachea, right? So it represents, it looks like a shovel, but when you look at it, of course, if you grew up in the teachings, you would know, okay, that's the representation, because the diagrams is representation of actual what's in the physical body as well. And it's the control the breath. It's the struggle between light and darkness, or the higher self, which is Haru, the lower self, which is considered as Set, the two different characters, right? And they also said the lotus flower. The lotus flower is a representation of Upper Egypt, or the higher self, all those good qualities or the fruits of the spirit. And the papyrus is a representation of lower Egypt or the lower self, or all those things that are against the good, like malice, envy, all of those things, right? So we can see it in every religion. They just tell the stories a little bit different and use different terms. Okay. The central and most popular character within ancient Egyptian religion of Asar is Haru, who is an incarnation of his father, Asar. Asar is killed by his brother Set, who out of greed and demonic or Satan tendency craved to be the ruler of Egypt. And Satan, spelled here, is S-T-I-A-N, or he allowed Set, his lower nature, to overrule him with the malice, greed, envy, murder, to take over and kill, right? He was being led by his lower nature. Asar is killed by his brother Set, who, out of greed and demonic Satan tendency, craved to be the ruler of Egypt. With the help of Jehudi, and Jehudi is the god of wisdom, Aset, the great mother, and Hetharu, his consort, Haru prevailed in the battle against Set for the rulership of Egypt, or of Kemet. Haru's struggle symbolizes the struggle of every human being to regain rulership of the higher self and to subdue the lower self. The most ancient writings in our historical period are from ancient Egyptians. These writings are referred to as hieroglyphics. The original name given to these writings by the ancient Egyptians is Metu Neter, meaning the writing of God, or Netu Metu, or divine speech. These writings were inscribed in temples, coffins, and papyruses, and contained the teachings in reference to the spiritual nature of the human being and the ways to promote spiritual emancipation, awakening, or resurrection. The ancient Egyptian proverbs presented in this text are translations from the original hieroglyphic scriptures. An example of hieroglyphic text was presented above in the form of the text of the Smai-Tawi, or Egyptian yoga. Egyptian philosophy may be summed up in the following proverbs, which clearly state that the soul is heavenly or divine, and that the human being must awaken to the true reality, which is the spirit, or in Egypt they call it the spirit, the self, or the true self, or the higher self, or the real self, right? And these are the 4 Egyptian proverbs, and then we'll pause after this. The first one is, self-knowledge is the basis of true knowledge, or spirit knowledge, knowledge of your spirit. Self-knowledge is the basis of true knowledge. The second proverb, soul to heaven, body to earth. Third proverb, man is to become godlike through a life of virtue and the cultivation of the spirit through scientific knowledge, practice, and bodily discipline. And the fourth Egyptian proverb is, salvation is accomplished through the efforts of the individual. There is no mediator between man and his or her salvation. All right, beautiful people. So this is where we will pause at today. And it goes on a little bit more about the Egyptian yoga before it starts, like the next section, the study of yoga. Maybe, okay. Oh yeah, I'll pause. We'll just finish this. We'll finish this part tomorrow, because it broke it down in sections. At the beginning, it told you like what is Egyptian yoga, and then the next one is the study of yoga, and it goes through that section. This last page for this first section of what is yoga, we'll finish tomorrow, because we're already at an hour and 15 minutes and we got to get out of here. All right, so I hope you all enjoy the reading for today. Okay. Get my page over here. All right, y'all. It is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. April the 19th, 2022, day 86 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Under the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1104. We read the OAHSPE And we started on page 17. And we went to page, I did not write that down. I think it was page 22. No, I'm sorry. Let me look. I'm just going ahead and it wasn't that far. 19. 17 to 19. And then we read in the meditation book, page 48 through 53. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed today. Remember, in a little bit, I'm going to share that clip. I'm going to try to find that movie clip with Dan where it was talking about how humans smell when they was in contact with the alien race that came and took over the earth, or was pretty much ruling the earth at that time. I'm going to try to find the name of that and possibly a clip from it on YouTube. And I'm going to also share that tantric book that I mentioned. I shared it before, but I'll share it again. You know, it's for married couples. I mean, if you're not married, if you're aspiring on being married one day, that stuff is good to know. I'm telling you, and it'll heighten some things for you. It really will, and especially if you and your spouse are both spiritual and are on the path of growth, of waking up in spirituality and realizing what our purpose here. Well, let me tell you, 2 is always better than 1, right? And when you come together, you got both of them energies that's on the same path come together, right? In the form of enjoyment for the flesh. But then when you understand when you understand what happens behind the scenes, that energy or that kundalini energy or that life force that begins to spiral back and forth as you're actually in the act of intimacy. If somebody put if you could see an x-ray of what was happening with the spirits and the energy forces on the 2 individuals, the male and the woman, how they combine and create that force, if you're aware of it, you can use it on purpose. So that's all I'm gonna give you for that right now. But I say that is one of the highest forms of prayer right there, because you can just, once you hit that point, you can just literally drop your prayers right off in the spiritual realm and see almost the instantaneous manifestation of it, right? But you both got to be on the same page. Read the book. Get it. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out today. May y'all continue to bless you in all that you do. May all that you touch be blessed, and may you be blessed with wisdom from the understanding that you gain in your daily life. All right. Love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.